Hello, hello. It's 12 o'clock Central Standard Time here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're going to get started because your time is valuable. And I am Jennie Wolek, and this is Brittany Winery, and we're super excited to chat with you guys. Hopefully, just a couple hours. We'll, of course, work through the content to make sure that your time is efficient in learning a little bit how to maximize your potential. So first off, I'll just introduce myself before we share the slides, and then Brittany can do the same. I'm Jennie Wolek. I live here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been in real estate for 20 years, and over the past, handful of years, I've discovered the beauty of growing a team and leverage in life, and all of the things that I've grown into today really go back to what we're going to talk about here today in maximizing your potential. Because as Brittany knows, and I'm sure she will share, is that first you got to envision your big life and what it looks like to you, and in order to get into action and have that become a reality. So Britt, why don't you share who you are?
Yeah, my name is Brittany Winery, and I am a realtor here in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the Wolek group. And I am really excited to share this material with you guys today because we've taught this class many a times and we have takeaways every time we teach the class. So thanks for letting us do that. And then also, I've learned through my experience and time and growth that by asking great questions and really sitting with it and thinking through them and allowing yourself the time and space to do so, you're going to excel and you're going to give yourself that opportunity for advancement, no matter if it's your personal life, your business, or any other area of life that you want to work on.
Yeah, and it's been fun for me to watch Brittany's growth. If you guys are friends with me on Facebook, you probably see Brittany a lot as well. It's just been so fun. And that's also something I've gotten to discover. Today, you guys are actually going to walk away with your own personal mission statement, or at least the start of one. Something that maybe you didn't realize was in your heart or in your mind. And then you're like, wow, I really care about this or that. And that's what I want my life to be about. And we're going to talk about tactics of how to make that happen, and having some accountability around that. But I've just really decided and have seen that my heart loves sharing and empowering agents and people in general, just to be their best selves and to do it with purpose. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share the screen, and that way we can work through this presentation called Maximize Your Potential. So can everyone see my screen? Yes, I see some head nods. Awesome. Well, let me get where I get the box out of the way. All right, so here we are today, maximizing your potential. So really, this stems from material that was created called Quantum Leap, QL for young adults. And this came about probably 5 years ago when Gary Keller of Keller Williams, he knew that he wanted to help. He has a son. He's not young anymore. But when his son was younger, he was always talking with him and his friends about living a big life and having, a purposeful one. And so a lot of the material we talk about here are just things that he discovered, whether it was from his own life or being a parent or leading a large organization, that, most successful people have very similar skill sets and very similar mindsets around life and around business. And so QL was created, and we have instructors across the country, across the world, where we get to share this content with younger people. It was really meant to focus on 18 to 28-year-olds. And then with COVID last year, Brittany and I used to teach this class in person on a Saturday. So, a person 18 to 28, what's the last thing they want to do on the weekend? It's come hang out with the old people and learn about, productivity and accountability and thinking big. So really the COVID blessing of last year is that we got to chop down some of this content that was taking a whole day to teach, which was super impactful, by the way, but now we can use it in many versions. So today's session is just a tidbit of the whole day class that we used to teach. And so we get really, really focused in these 2 hours. And it's really all about taking what we learned last year with staying at home and social distancing and all of the new world, and putting it to a online version where we can share this with you. So that's why we're here today. We're so grateful that you're here. If you want to show us your face, we're happy to see you. If you need to hide out, that's totally okay too. You can use the chat box to talk with us. I can't see the chat box anymore, Brittany. So if you can man it for me. Good.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So what we came about with the creators of QL is that over this last year, they came up with this term called a waymaker. And a waymaker is someone that has a clear purpose. They find their way in challenging times, and it paves a path forward that others can follow. And they step up courageously and lead from the front. How many did we see of these over this last year with a new changing world? I mean, we have people in our world and on our team who just were graduating from college, who didn't get to do their last semester in person with their friends, or had just graduated and entering the workforce in a pandemic. I mean, this is a whole new world that none of us could have ever predicted or planned for. And so I just want us to think about, how did you show up over this last year? Oops. What did I do? Did I stop sharing? Can you still see me?
I can see you. I can't see the
screen.
Yeah.
How about that?
Now I can see it.
Okay, good. I hit the wrong button. There we go. All right. So the power of QL, which is what we're going to talk about today, is really envisioning and creating a life that you want by addressing the following questions. Who am I? What do I want my life to be about? How will I structure my life to support that vision? What key relationships do I need to help me along the way? And how will I fund this mission to make the greatest impact? That's what we're going to cover today. And really, whenever we think about it, Brittany, why don't you share on this slide here?
Yeah, so this is the model that we use through QL and also in this session today for maximizing your potential. And so we're going to follow this 3-step model using questions to guide us through appreciating our past, envisioning an inspiring future, and then of course, taking action on the present. So of course, you guys may already understand and know, and through this class, I really realized the importance of appreciating your past, because there's things we've all been through, right? And experiences and people that we've been in contact with that maybe we're not anymore, or maybe we're working through relationships right now. And all of that we need to be able to appreciate and really review and spend some intentional time thinking through all of that, so that we can help inspire our future. And then, of course, know the action steps to take moving forward. So before we dig in, let's take a couple moments and ask some great questions on the next slide.
So what I've really learned, and Brittany, you've learned this as well, is that life is about asking great questions. And the life that you live is really determined. The bigger questions you ask of yourself and others, the bigger your life can be. So ask a question and you change the future before the answer even arrives. Super powerful, and just a great way. Brittany, what do you think that really means by that statement?
I mean, when I hear that, I obviously think of space to think. And I think a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of you could agree with this, in this fast-paced, ever-changing current place that we're in as a world and as an individual, it can feel very fast-paced, and just allowing ourselves time to think through, how might I overcome this obstacle, or what are the possibilities, and to really think through and navigate before making a decision.
Yeah, and I've also found that our brains naturally, when we ask ourselves a question or someone asks us a question, we go searching for an answer. So the kind of question you're asking yourself really matters. Is it a positive question or a negative one? And that's how you're really going to see a difference in your life, is when you envision the most positive life that you can. So I just feel like that's something really important to think about. Another thing that there's a book that I've read, The Road Less Stupid, by a guy named Keith Cunningham. And it's all about asking great questions. And I just think what he calls it at the end of each chapter, he calls it thinking time. Now, here's a list of questions. Go think about it. So do you have a time blocked slot in your week to just sit in quiet and think and not have things dinging at you and not having distractions? I think that's hard to come by these days. So you have to be purposeful about building that into your day. So what is the most important question you could be asking yourself right now to maximize your potential during these new days? Depending on what age you are, what phase of life you're at or not, what are the most important questions? So I want you guys to think about this. I shared the PDF as a workbook for a reason. Today, we may not have lots of time for you to dive into this, but maybe in your next thinking time session, you can come back and really reflect on what the answers could be to these questions. And then this one is one that always is kind of silly, and it's kind of also inspiring, because if you think about it, it makes you kind of chuckle, and it can be super enlightening. Whose life are you leading, and how do you know? Brittany, we talk about this one in our full day sessions together, and you always share a story. I'm calling you out on this. Do you want to share the story that when you had your realization of whose life you were living?
Yeah, so I remember sitting in QL as a student, and Jennie Wolek was the instructor, and they asked this question, and I remember we had a lot of thinking time because, of course, it's a full day course, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, I was not really happy with my health and where I was at that time, and I started thinking through things, and I'm like, wow, like my habits have been formed by my mom. I had watched her growing up, open up a can of Diet Pepsi for breakfast, and that was the norm for me. And having all these ahas of like, I've been surrounded by people, and actually my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday. I've never had someone in my family who exercised regularly. No one in my family did that. And so taking this class and thinking through that question, I knew, because I have 2 young children, I didn't want that for them. And that's not a lifestyle that I want to live. And so how can I take that back and choose my habits? And it did include, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but surrounding myself with people who could help me level up on my exercise and my fitness. And such a huge aha and moment whenever I took the course. And it really did change a lot of things in my life.
Yeah, so I encourage you guys that are hanging out with us here today, think on this one later on and go like, I think this especially happens a lot with young adults, is we go to school, we go to class, when it's time to go to the next class because the bell rings or the clock strikes a certain time, and you move to that next class, and then you get out of school. So then you have a couple choices. You either go off to college, or you get into some trade, or you go to work, whatever it is. And then you kind of look up and you go, wait, like, why am I choosing this field or this industry or this job? Is it something that I care about? Or was it something that was placed in my mind from my parents or my friends or society that that's what I should do? And I know that I did that. I absolutely went off to school, went to OU, declared a major that my best friend chose, because she was going to be my roommate and I just wanted to hang out with her, I guess. I mean, I had no purpose or plan, so I might as well have the same major. And then I quickly discovered that wasn't my thing, that's her thing. And guess what? I was a poor student and I didn't go to class because it wasn't anything in alignment with who I was. And so the reason I'm passionate about teaching this material, especially to younger people, is because don't waste all the time I wasted figuring it out or spending the money on classes or trainings that aren't in alignment with who I am at my core. We are our happiest when we're doing something that's in alignment with who we are inside of us. So that's something to chew on for later. So now we're going to work through that 3-step process that Brittany already mentioned. So whose life are you leading is the main question here. And now you're going to get a minute to think through each of these questions. So what is a moment in the past when you made a choice that helped you and others during a difficult time. How did this make you feel? And we'll give you just 1 minute for each of these to jot down some ideas. Now, of course, you can come back later.
Hey, Jenny, Brady needs entry
Okay.
into the passage.
Okay, you guys keep thinking on that. The rite of passage. Love it. Awesome. Okay, so the way this model is working, right? We're thinking back in time. So when was a time that I made a choice that helped me and others during a difficult time? I'd say that in 2020 is a difficult time because we got to live a new life that none of us have been prepared for. So, how did you make a choice during that time? Now, let's think about what our inspiring future could be. So what might it look like if you made a similar choice right now? So how would that impact you and the people you care about? And now we got to bring it to today. You've thought about the past, we're envisioning the future. So today, what can I do? What's the one thing you can do this week that could have a positive impact on you or others? And I sure hope you guys can hear my snoring 5-pound Yorkie because it's hilarious. He just lays right here and snores all day long. Can you hear him?
I think I did hear one snore.
Good thing he's really cute. So you see how this model works. We're going to think about our past, think about our future, and go, all right, so where am I today and what can I do to move myself, my career, my family relationships forward into a positive impact and have a positive impact. All right, so if you didn't come up with anything fabulous, it's totally fine. Come back later and work through that. And what would you say about quantum here, Brittany?
Yeah, this is my favorite because, of course, quantum leap, it definitely sounds large and mighty and even like stellar, interstellar, space-like. And quantum actually means the opposite. It means significant yet slight change. And so I love this because that's what today's all about, right? We want to make sure that it's measurable, and it can be a small needle push forward, but it's still a push forward. And so I know sometimes, like, I for sure know that obstacles or things that I need to take care of can seem really big, and it can almost seem like maybe I just need to table that and not do anything. Although in reality, we know that's probably not the best option. And so sometimes by just taking a slight yet significant chance and change towards something, we actually can chunk it down at such a small level that it seems really doable. And then we just look up and it's done, and we've done it because we were intentional about the questions we asked ourselves and chunking it down. So this next page, we're going to ask another question, and we're going to keep the word quantum in our mind because, again, it's a small yet significant change. So we're going to learn from our past. So what's one small step you took in the past that ended up leading to a big result? And I think definitely, as Jenny mentioned, 2020 was a very weird year for lots of people for lots of reasons, whether it was career changes or kiddos schedules. That was a huge one for us, or even just trying to manage how to stay sane if you're a people person like me and not seeing people was really hard. So what's one small step you took in the past that ended up leading to a big result? I love that. Someone shared in the chat that and I might have you unmute and help me pronounce your name. I don't know if it's Masha or Masha.
It's Masha.
Masha.
Masha. Okay, that's beautiful. I love your name. Decided to commit to daily mastery and support group to stay in healthy mindset. I love that. That is such a great thing.
Knew that would be very important for me because I
Yeah.
can get into a hole and I create all kinds of mental blocks for why I have too much to do and can't get to anything. So that's been really very helpful to have people that are figuring out ways to stay above it all and care for themselves and people around them and make it about what's important to them and just keep moving forward.
I love that. We totally, as a real estate team, like kind of unintentionally, intentionally did that. And we hop on Zoom every morning and share gratitude before we share what our schedule looks like for the day. And that was a huge thing that I leaned into for 2020 because I would wake up and just feel like honestly depressed, like just like icky and sad. And, you know, and that was a huge thing. So it's such a small yet significant thing that can really help go a long way. So I love that.
True.
On the next slide, okay, so we're going to envision an inspiring future. So what's one area of your life or even in the world, I mean, sky is the limit, right? Where you would like to see a big change right now? I think for a lot of people, this one can be easy to answer because there's been so much change. And so we're really good at that, right? We're like resilient. We've done a lot of change recently. So what are some things that you would like to change right now? And then the last question is you guys are thinking through that. Let's jot down and make sure that we take action. What's one small step that you could take right now towards making that change happen? Is it a person you need to contact? Is it an email or a text that you need to send out? You know, is it recruiting help and finding some people who also care about that item? Or maybe it's just making a list. Sometimes for me, it's just making a list and it like feels so good to get it out of my brain and onto paper. I love that, Masha. Thank you for sharing in the chat. She shared that I would like for people to decide to look to learn more about each other and think of differences as positives. I love that. Our office actually shared a YouTube video. I'll have to see if I can find the link and I'll share it in the comments. It was all about negotiations, and this girl's father does that for different countries. And she shared how he would go into these rooms with different cultures, different backgrounds, completely opposite views or ideas, and how they didn't come at each other, right? Like they were just there to learn. And he would go in with the mindset of learning one new thing that could, maybe he doesn't totally believe in it, or maybe it's not his view, but he was going to appreciate their view or their opinion and their differences. And it's really in alignment with what you just shared. So I'll have to find that link and share it in the chat box.
That's awesome.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, yeah, and this kind of goes along with all of that is, you know, whether we realize it or not, we have programming that's happening, whether you are acknowledging it. And thoughts always come first. There is this cycle. So whatever thought pops into your mind, whether a positive one or a negative one, will lead to feelings, how you feel about that. And that feeling will, either a positive or a negative one, will get you into action. And that action will produce a result. And then from that result, you form your thoughts around that whole result again. So this programming can be powerful or it can be detrimental. So this is why Brittany makes fun of me. She actually purchased a coffee mug and a wine glass for me with this quote on it to mock me and hopefully appreciate me. But I have a phrase that I always say, and it's called bless and release. So what that means is that I know that as humans, we're going to have thoughts come in our mind, no matter what. They're coming at us at all the time from all around. And it's either a positive or a negative thought. And it's maybe a thought I can control or one that I cannot. And so when it pops in there, I can acknowledge it because we are human. They come in. We can't fight off all the negativity all the time. But whatever it is, if it's something that I don't choose to believe in or to buy into, I touch the top of my head, and then that's when I say bless. I'm blessing that thought, meaning I'm acknowledging it, and then I'm releasing it. So I pop my hand up into the air. So I bless and release that thought. And so that's giving yourself permission to have a negative thought. We can't fight them all away from us, especially in this new world. We've had a lot of negativity over the last year in all areas of all things. And so we can't control some things and we can control others. So I'm going to just bless and release the negative things I cannot control. So maybe you have to come up with your own little hack of how you work through it. And I've got a wine glass and a coffee mug to remind me. So thank you, Brittany. My husband actually likes using those. So there you go. So what is cool about this slide is it just helps us kind of walk through it and think through it. So here's an example. You have a thought that I'm stuck at home and there's nothing to do. Okay, so maybe sometime nowadays we are able to get out more than we were a year ago. Obviously, my daughter reminded me this morning, she's 13 and a half. She reminded me that it was exactly a year ago that they were back from spring break, but stuck at home. Mm-hmm. For many kids, they never went back. Luckily, ours went back a little while later, but she said it was a year ago. And at the beginning of quarantine, we were all in chaotic, curious, what the heck is happening? You know, maybe we're like, yay, we get to stay home together for a minute. And then we're like, ugh, okay, I'm sick of you, whatever it is. But we had thoughts or feelings around that. So I'm stuck at home, nothing to do, I'm bored, or whatever your thought, your feeling was about it. So what is your action? Well, I'll just take advantage of this and I'll watch TV all day. And then the result is that you stop growing and you don't feel good about yourself. Did anyone fall victim to this during, you at least had a day or two that you were like, this stinks, I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing? Well, actually it happened to me when I got COVID. So I did allow myself to watch a little bit of TV, and luckily I got through that just fine. But many people did not, and there was a lot of chaos and confusion for all of us. So if instead, though, you switched your thoughts around to, I'm stuck at home, so how am I going to make the best about this time? So for us as a family, we all worked from home, school, and my husband was home and me all through the computer all day. And we stopped at lunchtime and we had lunch together. Then at 5 o'clock, we stopped and we went out for a walk around the pond in our neighborhood. And so we switched it from wah, wah, poor us to yay, we get to connect as a family in a way we have not done probably ever. So whether it's through COVID or once we're past all of this, you know, what are the things that are happening that you can switch to be into having a good feeling about it, getting into positive action, and then seeing the results, and you continue to learn and grow. So let's work through this. You know, you're going to have the same 3 questions here. So we're going to think about our past. So what is a moment in the past that you were really proud of? When did you just surprise yourself with, dang, that was really good? I know lots of people have a hard time doing this. It's hard to brag on ourselves, but you are awesome. So think about maybe what your mom would say about you that you were really proud of. What are the primary thoughts that led to that moment? And then let's think about your future. So what will the impact be on you and others when your thoughts are focused on outcomes you desire? So rather than thinking about the negative or things that are holding you back, what impact could you have on the world or your family or your friends? And then lastly, what thought have you had recently that's not leading you to the outcomes you desire? What thought could you replace it with that is focused on your desired result? I just thought of one, Brittany. I'll share this because it relates to you. At the beginning of 2019, I set a big goal of running a marathon, and I'm not a runner. I wasn't a runner, and I thought, I'm a crazy person, I guess, and I'm going to set out for this big goal. And a lot of coaching and accountability, all of that goes into play. And at the same time, I think I was probably also modeling for others that you can achieve any crazy goal that you think of. So that was at the end of 2019, right before COVID. I ran the New York City Marathon. The next year came, and we know what happened. And of course, running and exercise all got out of whack with the year. And we as a team said, hey, we need to have some kind of big goal to get our butts moving because this is ridiculous. And so as a team, we came up with a fun event that included our database, included our team and our families, and we set out to run at least a half marathon. So I set a goal for myself to run a half marathon. And everybody could participate at different levels. You could walk a mile, you could run a 5K, whatever you wanted to choose as your goal. And we had accountability around it and some fun. And I will let Brittany finish the story, because what happened after that, Brittany?
Well, during that, number one, I set out to run a 10K, which I had never ran that far in my life. And actually my little medal's hanging back here behind me. And then it inspired me because I was like, well, if Jennie can run a half marathon, well, then I can run a half marathon. So I'm currently training and signed up to run one in June. So there we go. I'm crazy, and I'm not a runner, you guys. I am not. I mean, I am now, and I would have never wanted to do that. And the cool part too that Jennie's not sharing is that through her marathon stuff, I think she kind of unintentionally lit a fire under our whole team, because I still remember, and it was something that imprinted us, was we could watch her on our app running the New York City Marathon. And here we are in Oklahoma, all cheering for her, like watching her do this huge accomplishment. And little did we know, we all then were like, man, like, wouldn't that be fun to do that? And then we ended up doing it as a team last year. And it was such a cool, like, impactful thing. And it just started with Jennie saying, yes, she wanted to run a marathon. And it just lit this trickle of fires. How cool is that?
So I guess the reason I bring that up isn't about like, yay me at all. It's about, though, the choices that we make could have such a ripple effect on all of those around us. And it's so powerful and amazing. So I'll throw in an example here because I recognize so many faces that, our friend James Shaw, this time last year, saw a need for connecting real estate agents, and look what he has grown that Pivot Shift Ahead group to. And how many families do you think that he has personally touched due to his having a thought, I can be afraid or I can get into action. He got into action, and now over 80,000 realtors are inside of this Facebook group, seeing the positive and positivity of getting into actions, which is all based on what we're talking about today. So awesome. Okay,
this is my favorite. Balance is bunk. I definitely appreciate this section so much, and I hope you guys will too, and I'm sure you will, especially if any of you are in real estate. And a lot of these people, so you see these tightrope walkers, right? We've seen them at circuses and different events, and a lot of people mistake that they're balancing, when in reality, they are constantly counterbalancing themselves with their pole, and they are constantly realigning themselves and ensuring that they're on track for meeting to the other side. And so I love this because I would always see people who looked so balanced, right? Like they can just do it all. They have this great life and this great family and these great jobs. And it's just, it's just very hard to view that from the outside looking in. And here's the reality, right? Because people can maybe mistake me for that. And that's not the truth. I am always counterbalancing different buckets at different times. And I always like to mention this little life hack that I'm pretty sure I learned inside of a QL class. And there is such a thing as life buckets. And I truly feel like before you can counterbalance your life properly, you have to sit and really have an understanding of what those buckets are for you. So, for example, mine are family, work, exercise and health, travel, because we love to travel, and then, of course, fun and friends. Like, those are my 5 buckets. And whenever you have clarity on your buckets, and I love writing them out at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and then really getting clarity on like what's inside of those, right? Like, of course, family are my kids and my spouse. And then I also have other relatives that I like to see. And of course, work is real estate. And it's also, meeting more people and doing social things to get in front of more faces and just really widening those buckets out and having clarity on them. And then when you do that, it's going to help you through the next questions that we're going to ask. So the next question is, what is an example of a time in the past when you were successful at giving your focused attention to one thing at a time? And if you guys feel empowered to share, you're welcome to comment in the chat box or unmute yourself and share. And the next question on envisioning an inspiring future is, what possibilities might it create for you if you were able to do that now? And the last, and I feel most important and powerful question is, what are all the things that are taking up your time and energy right now? And list everything that comes to mind, regardless of its importance. And I feel like these questions are so, so important, especially now, because we can feel stretched thin, right? And it's normal to feel like that. We as humans are not created to take it all on and to wear it every day, right? Like, we have to pick and choose where our energy and time needs to be spent. And there are days when sometimes you just have to say no. And actually, I have the word no on my wall behind me because I'm not good at remembering it. And so I stuck it on my wall because I am a people pleaser sometimes. It's part of my personality. It's all about knowing who you are. And I want to be liked. And if you tell people no, they may not like you. And at the end of the day, if you're not living a happy, healthy, your life, and you're living someone else's life, then are you really happy? And so I think it's really good to work through these. And I hope you guys will take the time to share your thoughts.
Yeah, and then we have a dilemma, and this dilemma comes up all the time. And this does go back to knowing your personal style and your behavior is, lots of us tend to want to know it all and to have it all and to do it all at the same time. And that causes a very stressful and chaotic life. And maybe you're this way, I don't know. And you do need to recognize and be really self-aware. I have found that the most successful people are very self-aware. That means they know their strengths and they know their weaknesses. And they also know that it's okay to not know it all, to not have it all or do it all. They just need to know, have, and do what's most important. And I'm going to add a caveat to that. What's most important to them and their goals, their families, and their future and their lives. So please remember, when something comes into your world or your day and you get stressed out, do you really need to be an expert in that? Or could you go find somebody who already is? Do you really need that material item? Is it really that important? And do you really need to be doing all these things? I love delegating or just dumping an activity. I mean, or is it mine to own? Then I need to take care of it, or it needs to go on my calendar. So knowing all three of these and what matters most is key. But how do you know what matters most? That's the question. And I think that's all based on, thinking really big and building out your perfect life and chunking it down. So let's think about your past. So think of an example of when you were focused with your time and your energy on something really important to you. What was that result? And then into your future, imagine, with limited access to others, this is really written last year. So think about, now could be a great time to focus on what matters most and not be distracted by all the other things. So imagine you're able to give your time to those things, the things that are really important to you. What impact would that be? I saw this a lot over this last year when people lost their jobs or were working from home. Didn't a lot of things change with their priorities, whether family priorities or home priorities? Could that have a reason that be part of a reason that we were really busy? People were stuck at home and realized, I don't love my house. I think I want a new one. Okay, we're ready to help. So think about a future where, what if you did what you love, what's really important to you, and how could that impact others in the world? And then lastly, let's just write down, what are some of the things that are super important to you? Let's just write down, if you can just jot down 5 things in order of importance that matter most to you. It can be people, dogs, whatever it is. It doesn't have to even be something that's money related or earning money. It could just be an activity that you love. I think we get lots of clarity when we remove all thoughts about what makes us money or what doesn't make us money, and we think about what's in our heart and what we really care about. Because I found that when you discover your passion and your purpose and apply it to your business, that's when you're the happiest. That's when you create the most excitement in your world with your clients and your family.
I think one more thing too inside of that, I recently have found myself like telling myself, I don't have enough time. There's not enough time, just like stressing myself out with that statement. And then sitting back and thinking through it alone, realizing, hold on, is this something that I'm supposed to own, just like you said, Jenny? Or is it something that needs to be delegated? Or like, is there someone else that could help with this to allow me more time or space to open up my mind and be able to take on different things? And so I keep in my brain going back to the time to think, right? Like we can instantly feel stressed or like we don't have time. And if we can give ourselves time to think through it, you normally can self-discover a better option or a way to delegate or just say no and cross it off and move on. I love all those questions.
And Brittany, a thing that I learned years ago is when I would sell myself the same thing, I found that my biggest stressor is time or lack of time. That's when I get the most stressed out. I'm sure everybody can kind of relate to that. And then when I would say, I don't have enough time, I would change the thought to, I have enough time for the most important things to get done. And you put them in order of importance, because if you can't get to all 10 items on what you think you need to do today, at least if you knock out the first 2 or 3, are those the most important?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so think big and act small. I love this. I feel like it's a mantra for a lot of our real estate stuff and also our lives. And so the fact that all of you are participating today, of course, means you guys are learning based, and learning based people are also typically goal setters. And so a learning based individual is someone who's made the decision to use effective learning as a foundation for their action plan. And learning-based people, as I mentioned, are usually goal setters. Yet when things are uncertain, it can be a little difficult to know how to set goals. I'm the first to raise a hand on that. So let's share on the next slide questions to help us think through that. So let's learn from our past and think through an example of a time in our lives when we created a habit that helped us accomplish our goals. I bet we have lots. And then as we inspire or envision an inspiring and future, how would it feel if you could make significant progress towards your big goals during this time? And I feel like we're getting a little more certain. Maybe we're certain in the uncertainty. I don't know. It could be a mixture of all the words.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, what is a habit you could work on developing right now in order to stay on track with your big goals? And then the most important question, when will you start? And I think a follow-up question is, who are you going to tell to hold you accountable? I mean, we keep talking back about this, but it's just fresh in my mind because I'm still currently doing it. When I was running, I would post on my Facebook, hi friends, here's my running schedule this week. And I listed out Monday through Saturday with what my runs were, what time I was going, what day. And people would comment and be like, awesome, you go, like, way to go. Or people would text me on like the Wednesday and be like, how'd your 2-mile run go today? How'd your, and it like created accountability for me. And because I shared it with the world, well, now I have to show up because I shared it with everyone. And I'm also a documenter of things. And so they're going to know if I didn't do it because I'm going to take pictures of my time. I'm going to take pictures of what I've done. And so it's really cool. But when you share it with someone who you know, or on social media, or with a mentor or a coach, it can really take you to the next level of ensuring you accomplish what's important to you.
This is where I like adding in one of my favorite phrases, which is we tend to judge other people based on their actions. So Masha, if you told me you were going to do something, I would judge you on if you did it or not. That's just human nature. Now, and then the other side of that is we tend to judge ourselves on our intentions. Mm-hmm. So if I intended to go for a run, but I didn't tell anybody about it, I'm totally going to let myself off the hook and nobody's going to call me out. And that's where Brittany's, sharing it with the world. Now we have the social media tool to make ourselves get stuff done and to hold us accountable. So I think that makes so much sense when that's why we got to share our goals with the world, because they'll help pull us through to them. So talking about goals, goals are important and they do have a deadline. So whenever it comes to really mapping out what your life's mission should be, there's a difference between the two. We have a goal and we have a mission. They're different. A goal has a specific desired result. You set a goal this year of selling X number of houses. You will either achieve it or you won't. A mission is your life's purpose, and it does not end. It keeps going. Gary Keller, when I was in the class with him, when he first taught this to the instructors, he said, your mission is something like saving the whales. There will never be an end date for that. You will continue on that mission and you won't say, yay, I'm done. So that is the difference between these two. So keep that in mind as we move forward here.
Okay, so identifying what you feel connected to. These are going to be some pretty deep questions, and I definitely want you guys to share in the chat box if you feel ever so inspired to do so. And if not, spend extra time after this class and think through these, because they are really powerful drivers in regards to your life and your impact. So the first question is, where are you moved to set in motion a positive ripple in the world? What topics are you drawn to? What impacts do you desire to have on others or on the world? And what causes are you most passionate about and why? And I think it's so important to think through those, because if I'm being honest, the first time I was asked these, I didn't really know. Like, I love children. I've always been around children. That was my first job. And I also love people. And so, thinking through all those different questions, it really helped me understand that. And by the way, when I first took this class, I was new to real estate. And I think for me, it really helped instill that I was where I needed to be and that I had all these great opportunities to help people. And I learned why I was passionate about it. So think through these questions and jot down some notes and ensure that you're spending time with your thoughts on them, because they're big questions.
Yeah, and I failed to set this up properly, because these next two slides that we're working through, step 1 and step 2, are helping you build your own personal mission statements. A lot of times in our business or different companies have a business mission statement. That's great. You should have one of those. And you first got to have a personal guide. And this is what we're working on right now. So your personal mission statement. Now, something I've learned is that some behavioral styles have a hard time committing to writing down something because they're afraid it's not going to be perfect right now. And so we like to say that you're just dating this. You're just dating these ideas. You're dating these words. You're not married to this mission that you're going to come up with here in just a minute. So just jot down some ideas. These questions are just to inspire some thoughts around what matters to me, what do I care about, what impact do I want to have on the world.
Yep. So step number 2, this is really uncovering your gifts. So your talents and skills that make you unique. And this is another place where, you may hear people say, wow, we really love this trait about you, or how are you so whatever, fill in the blank, kind, passionate, happy, caring, all those different words. And so what gives you energy and fuels you personally? And what is something you would do even if you were not paid to do it? I mean, for me, that's probably sitting with puppies and dogs and loving on them and playing with them. We were asked that in another class. What would you do if money was no object? And it was definitely hanging out with pets. When time flies by or you lose track of time, what are you typically doing? If your creator came to you in a dream and told you that you were put on this earth for a specific purpose, what would they say it was? I love that question.
And I'll even throw in, I think that sometimes it's hard for us. This is where it's hard for you to brag on yourself. Naturally, it's hard for lots of us. So what would your mom say you were really good at? What would somebody you care about and who knows you the very best, what would they brag on you about?
And I want to remind you too, this is kind of just a mind jotting space. And we actually talk about an example a lot of times that, imagine you're painting and there's 2 groups, right? Group A is able to paint, they need to paint right now. And there's a deadline, 30 minutes or an hour. And group B has 2 weeks to keep revisiting their painting and making tweaks. And as you can imagine, probably group B would have the better painting because they have more time, more space, more time to come back and make tweaks and edits along the way. And so we want you guys to remember this as you're working through these questions. You don't have to have all the answers right now. It's okay to have a messy jot. I mean, I've written on mine many times of words and things that inspire me. And I love it because I get to keep revisiting it and adding and tweaking to it. And so I would challenge you to do the same. Okay, so step 3 is to actually write your mission statement. And so we've got this really awesome, simple formula. And Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to write down the words, the mission for my life is to, and then you're going to add in the thing that you have passion for. And then you're going to fill in the words by implementing or through which or with your skills, talents, or other gifts that you possess. And that is going to be your mission statement.
Yeah, so it's the mission for my life is to your answers to number one by implementing or through or with the answers to number two. So you should be able to kind of piece together this aha of, wow, I love doing these things and here's how I'm going to do it. So we would love for you guys to work on this. And I know sometimes it's hard to do it on a short notice, but we'd love to hear if you come up with something or have some ahas, put it in the chat box or even think through it later and tag us or share it with us online. We just get so fired up and excited when you have a little bit of inspiration or excitement around, oh, wow, if I just love this so much, I can have this for others or my family or the future or the world. So maybe you guys have seen this before. It's been used in some books. One is called The One Thing, which is a great book and tool. If you guys haven't read it, I encourage you to pick it up. It's not just a real estate book. It's actually a productivity tool. And inside of it, we talk about if you just envision an iceberg. Maybe you've heard this analogy before, but if what happens is underneath there, way down deep, you can see how much is actually underwater. And at the very, very, very bottom is your purpose. This is your foundation, really, but inside of an iceberg, it's down below the surface of the water. And that is your purpose. And your purpose then fuels your priorities. So your priorities are the things that matter most to you, and actually your activities. So my purpose is going to get me into action with certain activities. And then those activities are then going to be shown up to the world as productivity. So for an example, in the world that we happen to live in, that's real estate. You see an agent that sells lots of houses. That's their production. That's the productivity. Those are the results. But you don't see below the surface of the water all the hard work that they put into building up that pipeline, talking to people, building relationships, following through, touching their database systematically, all of that stuff. And all of that was fueled by their purpose in life or their ultimate missions and goals for themselves or their families. And so a lot of times we see these people that appear to be this overnight success when we don't see all the work that was done all the time in the years beforehand. I mean, I've been in this business 20 years. That's a lot of purpose and priority to get to finally having an awesome productive life that I get to share with others that happen to be in my world. So I'm grateful for that. But just remember this: purpose without priority is powerless. It will get you nowhere. You have to get into action. If you want to just use the word activities in the priority blank, that can help you remember what that means. I didn't get that for a long time. I had to read The One Thing a few times to have that click for me. So now, Brittany, is this your part?
You can take it away.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. So now let's stay on the same thought here. So envision a future. We're just going to skip right to the future here. What will the exciting and personally fulfilling impact be as you focus on things that are important to you? Who will be impacted? This is where I start getting goosies and excited because the future is open to opportunity. It's not written yet. So how will you write it? So think about what will the exciting and personally fulfilling impact be whenever you focus on what matters to you, and who will be impacted? So really, let's just sum it up right here with this question. What's the most important action that you guys can take after this time together here that can help you maximize your potential in this new world with all this new stuff that's gone on over this past year, with the challenges that we have come across? And I just stole that from you, Brittany. I'm sorry. Do you want to wrap up anything on this slide to talk about the importance right now?
Yeah, no, I just think that there are opportunities everywhere. I think that last year and moving into this year, we've all learned that if we will be open, willing, and able to accept opportunities, that they're literally all around us. And I love when Masha shared about having like a support group and staying in healthy mindset, because I think for a lot of us, finding that was a real key driver for our successes and for getting us through last year and even into this year with weird and wonky things still going on. And so I think it's so great to work on mindset. I think that's kind of the foundational piece. And if anyone feels like they haven't quite, found where they need to be or mastery inside of that, because we're all working towards it every day, I would start there because it's the most impactful.
Yeah, for sure. And, I love this word, and I think it could just be our own mantras. A waymaker has a clear purpose, and we're in alignment and on this path of getting into action and living our best lives. So I want to share with you guys that have hung out with us here. There are steps after this. I don't know why the slide isn't going further, but for those of you who have joined us here, whether you're a young adult or whether you are an older person like me, we have different opportunities to still continue in this world. There are kwkc.org is the nonprofit that funds this program, as well as other trainings. There's more trainings that are different, maybe focusing on money or the whole Quantum Leap series. And also, if you're an older person, maybe over 28 or even younger, Brittany's young, you can be an instructor. And so you can learn about this material and you can share it with others. I love it when we teach things, we are better at them. We grow into them, and it's just a beautiful thing. So we would love to hear from you guys. We're through the presentation, and I just would like to hear some ahas from you guys. Like, what did you hear from all of that? And what are you going to take away from today? Okay.
Hi, I'm Parker. I really liked how, I think it was Brittany earlier talking about how she noticed like things that her mom would do or things that her family would do that necessarily weren't good habits. And it's important to learn to break those and maybe get your own good habits instead.
Yeah.
So, I really like that.
Isn't that a cool way of thinking about things? Is we may be doing things that are just naturally inside of us, and we go, wait a minute, why am I doing that? And then you can change the habit. You really can. And so I encourage you, Parker, to read The One Thing, because there's some great tools in there about how you can change your thinking around and creating great habits. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Hunter just shared in the chat box, managing my time better to work on myself better and also my goals.
Love it. Thank you. That's awesome. Well, we're just so honored. If you guys don't have anything else, we're so honored that you hung out with us. We know that this is a lot of thinking stuff, and we would love for you to take the time after today and work through that. If you don't have the presentation PDF, just hit me up and I will send it over to you again. This isn't just a one and done type of class. This is a continual journey every day of thinking about living your best life. Any final words, Britt?
Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it on this gloomy Oklahoma day. You guys brought some sunshine and happiness to our day. So thank you guys for being a part of this with us.
And if that's it, we will see you guys really soon. We appreciate you, and please reach out if you need anything at all. Thank you guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
See ya.